takes a few minutes for everybody to see it and click on it.
Where's the out of these plastic things again?
I think we're completely out. Oh, yeah.
That's all there is left.
Is it those or is it the deeps?
No,
The
that's
deeps
the
are
last
empty.
box.
We have no more of the deeps. Fallen ones. She got behind on those. Everybody's been coming in. We had a whole bunch of that Formic Pro, and then
We got a lot of that.
I know now, but we had a whole bunch of it. And one lady come in and bought like 35 packets of it, and we had like 2 left. Hi, Bear. Afternoon. I'm gonna get started here in just a second. Yep.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Great Lakes Bee Supply question and answer. Store was plenty busy today. Quite a few people came in to tell me they got stung, which if you got bees, you get stung. But most everybody was coming in and getting mite control. Different kinds of mite control, Varroa mite. So we stayed pretty busy today, helping people out, getting frames. Most everybody now is putting honey supers on. You'll have to watch your bees. Probably a lot of you have noticed today or this whole week that the bees are possibly bearding on the front of your hive. That happens all the time. It's nothing to be alarmed about. You can open your lid. We talked about that last week. Is if you've got a situation where you can open the lid without rain going in, go ahead and open it up. And let's a little more air fly through the thing. But everybody's bees seem to be doing good. Everybody's taking honey now. There's a lot of people in today that had 2 honey supers, 6-inch honey supers, and they took one off today, and they still have a full one on there. So that is something that you can do as long as you maintain your 1 deep box on the top of your hive. No matter if you got 3 or 4 deeps high, the top one, if it's full, if a 6-inch honey super is full of honey, that's about all you need to have on the hive to get it through the winter. Most of the people are concerned about mites, and from the middle of the summer until time to close up the hives, that's when you're going to see your mites. Mites are fairly active right now. They don't seem to be very active in the spring, but they do show up in the fall. Well, I had a couple people that have had any amount of beetles. Beetles have been pretty slow this year. Our hives out at the farm, we maybe got 2 beetles. And they just don't seem to be a big problem this year. But
At least around here.
some people have them in different places, and I suppose it would depend if you've got your hives by a lake or by a wet area. It's possibly the beetles would be a little more active in that area. I don't really know.
Or if they're in Arizona.
Does anybody have any questions about anything, about how your hive's going or what you're doing with, your stacks, how they're shaping up? In most cases, our hives, so we have 6 hives going right now, just because there's too much honey if you get very many. But we have one that's 2 boxes high. We have 4 that are 3 boxes high, and we have one that's 4 boxes high, and that one needs another one on it. We've got one of, luckily we ended up getting one with a super queen in it, and now we are full 4 deeps high. And when I lifted the lid up a couple days ago, the whole top of the hive was black. So it's ready for at least another honey super on the thing. But I know that probably the top 2 deep boxes are probably full of honey, because I pried one of the top boxes up to see if I could lift it, and I could barely lift it. So I know there's about 70 pounds of honey in at least the top box, if not the 4th box, also the 3rd box down. So
Heather says, my garden isn't seeing hardly any bees this year. I'm so disappointed. I need to invest in a hive next year. That is true. You will see more bees in your garden if you have a beehive at least within a couple of miles of you, if not your own. It's not real common anymore to see a whole lot of bees on your flowers and in your garden, at least honeybees, if you don't have a hive nearby. So it will help. You'll get more produce.
yeah, your squash, almost all your vegetables, except corn.
Fruit trees too.
Fruit trees, which now there's no fruit trees really blossoming, so the bees have already taken care of that. But the bees will really improve your fruit trees. You'll really notice a difference in that. But the squash are still coming. Cucumbers have been out, so the bees need to pollinate the cucumbers. Corn self-pollinates, so that does not require bees to pollinate that. But there's a lot of people that have that same feeling that they're missing the bees, and that's a reason why a lot of people are getting bees, not only to sustain the pollinators, but to also improve their own crops or trees or whatever they have around their house.
Bear says, I have 2 really strong hives that I just put a honey super on, but one is slow going. The bees for some reason will not draw out the outer 2 frames. What can I do to get them to draw them out? Move them in, Bear. Move the 2 outside empty ones in between your full ones, and they'll draw them out. That's about the easiest way to do that.
If you're down to a honey super with 2 through 9 full of honey, and the very 2 outside ones are not getting drawn out, you, like Rifton said, you can take those 2 out, separate all of the frames, push them to the outside, and then set the 2 empty ones in. But if you're that full with a honey super, you're pretty close to need another box on it, because you've got a fairly short time. We're a little bit in a dearth right now. Dearth. The dry weather we've had without rain has, and a lot of you'll notice cornfields that aren't irrigated. The cornfields, the leaves on the corn are pointing right straight up, and they're all curled together. That's how corn conserves its water. It closes up the big leaves that are open to the sun. It makes it so they save more water. But right now is when plants that are really getting dry, either wild weeds or your flower bed that's not watered all the time, nectar that comes up in these flowers will sort of dry up. The plant naturally conserves its water, and it does it by not putting out as much nectar. So it makes it harder for the bees to get the nectar out of the plants when the plant isn't pushing out a lot of nectar for them to get and take back to the hives. Trees will also be drying out. Your wilder weeds, everybody's got a few weeds around their house, I'm sure. Weeds seem to grow in dry weather or whatever. But in general, most of the weeds have pretty small little blossoms. They don't have a lot of nectar anyway. But it's at a time right now when everything is so dry that we're kind of in a dearth period right now that makes it hard for the bees to come up with nectar. So you may notice your hive is slowing down as far as the honey processing or the honey producing. You may notice that it's slowing down a little bit. And, you know, you could start sugar watering them a little bit if you're, you know, depending on what's happening to your colony. But if you wanted to sugar water them for a week or so, hopefully tonight's Saturday night, hopefully tomorrow we're supposed to get some rain, which will help. But it takes a little bit of rain and a little bit of time to get into the ground, and then the plants take off again, and you'll start to see, you know, plants coming out. Bushes like Rose of Sharon. A lot of you probably have Rose of Sharon. They're kind of a bush, or they can be kind of a short tree. The Rose of Sharons are really blossoming out, and if you're watering them, the buds are big. I mean, we've got 4 Rose of Sharons out to the house, and one bush is just covered with blossoms. And then we've got 3 that we just planted this year. Each one of those has probably 10 purple, beautiful flowers on them. And if you keep them watered, those are a source for the bees to go to. But we also have a goose pond out at the house that our geese get in, and the bees are getting water. They go down, land on the rocks beside the pond, and walk down the rocks right to the edge of the water where the water splashes up from the geese, and that's where they're getting their water. It's kind of hard. Usually bees can get water out of your gutters on your house. Gutters always hardly ever completely drain dry, and that is a good water source for a lot of bees. But without it raining, gutters are dry. There's just no water for them. Fortunately, in the morning, if you notice Saturday morning or Friday morning, you notice that overnight there gets to be quite a bit of dew on the grass. First thing in the morning, 6:30, 7 o'clock, if you walk around, you'll notice your grass is damp. And that's a good water source for the bees. They'll get that first thing in the morning before it evaporates off the grass. But it helps, but it's getting pretty dry out.
We try to pay attention to geographical location. We know some of you are watching from not even from Michigan, so we try to tailor it as best we can to everybody that's watching. But as you can tell, Southwest Michigan is really dry right now. So we know that some of the rest of you are doing just fine, probably with a different weather pattern. But for the beekeepers, because a bulk of them that watch these are probably somewhat local to us in Southwest Michigan, or at least Michigan. So when we talk about some of the things, that's for our area. I'm seeing some questions. Bear is from Mesick. Bear, we have a cabin in Mesick, so we're very familiar with Mesick. Nicole, hi guys, purchased a nuke from y'all and installed this spring. See more. My queen was not up to par, apparently. They kept making new queen cells. I let nature do its thing. They ended up requeening. I was queenless for some time and half my hive dissipated. Right now, my hive is thriving after about 3 weeks, but I feel I'm way behind. Will my ladies be fine for winter? I'm hoping by the end of the season, they'll fill up their comb. Thoughts. Nicole, they should be okay. Requeening is not a huge deal. 3 weeks out of the process is probably not too bad. How many deep boxes do you have on the hive? because you should be at least 2, if not 3 by now. Providing, so you got the nuke from us, so you must be somewhat local to us. Bear, I have a 40-pound pollen substitute feeder and external sugar syrup feeders also. This is my first year of beekeeping. Planted buckwheat and yellow sweet clover. My bees seem to love our pool. Yeah, they do like pools. They like the chlorine. The odd things, you know, dogs will drink antifreeze because they really like it. Obviously not good for them. It seems to be the same way for bees, and chlorine in pool water. They actually are more attracted to the pool water than they would be normal water. We get calls from time to time here. Somebody will have a backyard, especially in-ground pool, and they want us to come remove the bees from the pool. And it's like, that's not how that works. It's not a swarm call. There's no way for us to remove the bees visiting the hive or visiting the pool. So apparently they have a beehive somewhere within 2 or 3 or 4 miles of their pool, and or a feral hive. It doesn't have to be a beekeeper, but I told them, unfortunately, there's just no way they're going to stop that process. If they're feeding on the water in the pool, they shouldn't be aggressive at that point. So it's probably not too big of a deal. But Nicole, you have 2 deeps on. How close are they to a 3rd deep? Is your 2nd deep doing pretty good? And question number 2 is, do you have more than 1 hive, or do you just have 1 hive? And for everybody watching on YouTube, also feel free to ask a question. It can be about beekeeping. It can be about pollinators in general. We'll try to answer as best we can. This is our weekly way of trying to keep in touch with everybody because of COVID. We don't get to see everybody near as much as we normally do, especially when we go through our classes. So we get on here every Saturday, mostly every Saturday, and try to help people answer questions or at least get feedback from everybody about how they're doing, how their hives are doing, things like that. So we still see a lot of customers in the store for our supplies throughout each day that we're open. Right now we're only open Thursday and Friday from 10 to 4, and Saturday from noon, Saturday is 10 to 6, and Sunday is noon to 4. And we probably will be opening slightly more hours here in the next couple of weeks on just those days, Thursday through Sunday. But we're still trying to not be fully open yet with COVID. So it's about halfway, 1 hive. Okay, so the disadvantage to having 1 hive, of course, is that what I would tell you if you had more than 1 hive is that you need to take some eggs or capped brood from another hive, brush the bees off of it, and put it into the weak hive, and that will give them a good, nice jump start. If you only have 1 hive, they're about halfway through the 2nd hive. I would recommend, if it were our hives, to put sugar water on them to feed them. Generally speaking, if a hive is struggling or a hive is behind, especially with as dry as it is right now because you're from Southwest Michigan, putting sugar water in a feeder in the hive or the jar feeder right in the front door will give them a boost. They won't have to spend so much time foraging. They can put their sugar and their syrup, sugar water, syrup, nectar into their hive quicker, and they'll pay a little bit more attention to brood, and they'll build up a little bit more. So I've got lots of babies. Yes, you do. So if it were me, I would sugar water them, especially because although I feel like I can hear it pouring rain right now, we're in the classroom inside the store, so it's a little muffled, but I'm pretty sure I can hear it pouring rain. So that's a good thing, but it'll take a little bit before that does any good for us. So I would sugar water them, and it'll give them a boost. It'll help them get some speed up and hopefully catch up. So.
Has anybody had an influx of beetles? Anybody, if you haven't put a trap in and monitor them with a trap, we sold probably 12 or 14 beetle traps today because people came in, 2 different couples came in and said they pulled their 1 beetle trap out they had, and they had about 20 beetles in it. So They had 2 deeps and 2 honey supers on. And I suggested that with that many in there like that, that they maybe should put another $4 beetle trap in, so you have one in each box. If you get too many in there, it will start to be a problem. The beetle traps work really well, but if you're getting too many for some reason, if you're by a lake or by a woods or some oddity thing that happens to attract beetles, just add another beetle trap in there, and in most cases, a beetle trap does away with the problem of beetles. It will catch them.
Bear, you asked what can I add to my sugar syrup to give them a boost? I found a single beetle in one hive. So you're good with your beetles. You can do products, doesn't have to be this one, but you can do products like this. This is called Honey Be Healthy. I realize it's backwards because both of our cameras for YouTube and Facebook reverse everything because we're not looking out the front camera. But it's called Honey Be Healthy, and it's basically a vitamin feeding stimulant with essential oils, vitamins, minerals, nutrients, things like that. That'll give them a little bit of a boost, especially coming in through fall. So you can add that for a supplement if you want to do a product like that. There are also like Super DFM. There are different kinds of products that you can use, whether they're a liquid or they're a powder solution. You can add them to your food sources for your bees to give them a little bit of a boost. So that should help. You don't have a beetle problem if you have only one in the trap. It's doing its job. Surprisingly, no problem on my end with mites or beetles. Knock on wood. Yep, Nicole, that's the last thing you need right now for your hive that's a little behind, is for an ailment. So just a reminder, everybody procrastinates when it comes to doing Varroa mite treatments. Everybody does in some capacity. Some are really bad, and here it is August 1st, and nobody's done a Varroa mite treatment to their hive yet. You gotta do that. I can't stress how important it is for you to do Varroa mite treatments to your hives. You can't say, oh, I've been in my hive 5 times and I haven't seen any mites. That's not how that works. There can be a lot of Varroa mites in the hive and you won't notice them. Chances are you have them. They're very common and they're a big problem to beehives. You should think about treating or at least doing sugar rolls and trying to make sure, see if you have them, or uncapping brood and start looking at your drone brood in your hive and pulling those drone larvae out to see if you see any little Varroa mite dots on them. But you should be doing treatments. In the spring, when we do these See, the audio is probably not great now on YouTube because I'm using the webcam audio, but I'm hoping you can just hear me. It may not be great, but can you hear us now on YouTube? Facebook, Troy Hill, what method of mite treatment for long lang hive? I have Formic Pro, but says it is not recommended. Cheryl Jones, the audio is back. Good. It's probably not the best audio, but as long as you can hear us, we're going to go with that. So if you guys have any questions on YouTube's, let us know. Thank you for letting us know the audio went out. Different kinds of treatments. I don't understand why Formic Pro says it's not recommended for a long lang hive. I don't know why you couldn't use that. It's a Varroa mite treatment. The type of hive you use shouldn't matter to the type of treatment that you use. I don't know if somebody told you that or if you read that, but we have long hives that we use on the farm and that we build and that we sell, and we use Formic Pro in those without any issue. So
what I do is I take the Formic Pro out of the bag, out of its packet. It's like a little foil packet. I cut it lengthwise to make so there's two strips that are like 1.5 inches wide by 9 inches long. And I discussed this with a lady today that had a top bar, and she wanted to treat her top bar with Formic Pro. And I suggested she cut it down lengthwise and lay one of the strips, like start with frame number 3 by the entrance or the brood end, lay it right in the middle, perpendicular to the frames, and then skip about 4 or 5 inches and then put another one in there so that you actually have a line down the middle of the top bar or a Great Lakes long hive. And that way, Formic Pro works on fumigation. It puts out a smell that takes care, or it's like an insecticide that takes care of the mites. And if you can spread that out, you can see that it's only going to be 6 or 8 inches from the outside edge of the hive, and that should cover it and make it go around there. Keep in mind when you do use Formic Pro or really any type of mite control, you do want to take a piece of cardboard or a sticky board that we have here and put something on to block off your screen bottom. You've got to be able to have those vapors go all the way down to the bottom of the bottom frame and the bottom box. And if the whole bottom is open, any breeze will kind of dissipate that on the bottom. So while you're treating them, the bees still have to come and go, but you can put that board under there, your sticky board or a piece of cardboard or something thin, drop ceiling panel, those work nice too. Just shove it right in there so it mostly blocks off the screen on the bottom, and that will let the effervescence of the Formic Pro go down into the bottom and circle around and cover the bees better. So you have to kind of use your resources at home and see what you have to be able to block it off, but you don't want to stop the bees from coming and going, so don't tape off the front entrance. You're trying to stop the open screen bottom.
just reduce the airflow. Bear, I bought mite away strips when I got home. I saw one pack expired 2 months ago. Is it still good? You didn't get those from us, did you, Bear? I don't think our stuff doesn't sit on the shelf long enough to expire.
You don't have mite away strips anymore.
Oh yeah, you're right. But no, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. You know, if you were going to say 6 months, then I'd say, nah, might be an issue. I don't think being expired is going to kill the bees. It might just not be as effective. Toward the end of expiration and shelf life for those medications like that, they might not be as potent as they were during their, normal shelf life or at the beginning of their shelf life. But a family farm at home, yeah, you got to watch those expiration dates on some of those things because some of those products take a while to ship through their systems for chain stores and things like that. And sometimes the boxes sit in backstock for quite some time before an employee gets them out and puts them out. But I wouldn't say, if it were me, I would still use it. It may not be as effective, but I don't think you should throw it away. So, Troy, should I leave cover board screen in place? Yeah, you can leave your upper screens in place when you do a treatment. Just reduce your airflow by closing your bottoms on your screens. Or if you made yours or bought it somewhere, it's not ours, just make sure that the ventilation across the bottom is reduced a lot to allow the fumes for your treatments to fully penetrate the whole hive. You're welcome, Bear. Cheryl on YouTube, I have an old Varroa hive that was given to me a couple years ago. I had a swarm move into it about 3 months ago. Awesome. I'd like to move the bees to an 8 frame. Any ideas or tricks to get this done? Oh, well, that's a little tough. You just have, basically all you have to do is you either have to transfer them from one to the other and then move the new box 5 or 6 or 7 or more miles away, set it in a new location, leave it there open for a week or two, then close it back up and bring it back. In order to move it, if you're just going to put one hive in the place of the other hive, then all you have to do is figure out how to adapt. It is a trick. Your frames and your sizes and your parts and pieces to each other. If it's going to be in the same place, then you're just going to put the new hive where your old one was, and you just have to be able to switch them. But no, I'm sorry, there's not any real great ideas and tricks. It's the same problem that people have with top bars. Those dimensions for those are all different, and so you've got to figure out how to finagle ways to try to make some of those hives that don't interchange easily fit with each other. So more about transferring the combs. It's tough. Are you using the foundationless frame in the Varroa? I'm confused a little bit. Yeah, rubber bands. I was just going to say, Cheryl, rubber bands are probably the best thing. So when you have your frames like this, well, we do this with swarms more than anything, but if you're going to cut comb out for swarms, so for instance, if we're going to do a cutout in a barn wall of a hive that's in somebody's a barn wall at their property, we want to try to get some of that comb, especially if it has brood in it, when we do the cutouts. And so we'll take our frames and we'll put a big chunk of a comb that we cut out of the barn wall or the cutout, and then we'll take rubber bands and we'll run rubber bands around this to kind of suspend your comb in the middle of your frame, and they'll actually work on reconnecting and filling that back in. But that's about the only way you're going to be able to do your transfers from one to the other and use that free hanging comb, is to suspend it in these and do the rubber bands to try to get everything moved over. So that's what we do a lot when we do cutouts, and we want to try to save a bunch of that comb. And Cheryl, you're going to have to do the same thing, trying to transfer that from your Varroa to your hive.
An 8 frame.
It's not, because she's moving it into an 8 frame, so it has different dimensions, like a regular cutout but smaller pieces. Thanks. Yep, you got it, Cheryl. You got the trick already. You're already on it. Good luck with that, by the way. That can be a little tricky. Troy Hill, got it. Thank you. Yep, you're welcome. Hopefully that helps. Does anybody else have any questions? I think we're probably running into our 6:38. Yeah, we're not doing too bad. Just trying to answer any questions anybody else may have. For beekeeping, again, thank you for your likes and your thumbs up and things. We do see those on the screen while you're watching these. Lets us know that you're finding some value in what we're trying to pass along and however we're trying to help. As usual, you can always call the store. Doesn't matter if you're in Southwest Michigan or anywhere else for that matter. Beekeeping in general is very similar across the country. There are some changes depending on where you're at to consider, but call the store. Like I said, right now we're on reduced hours still, Thursday through Sunday, but you can also leave us a message. We're pretty good about getting back to you as quick as we can. But if you have bee questions, that's right now, that's probably 50% of our business is just answering questions and trying to help people with what they're doing. So if you ever want to ask questions, and this is a good way for you to talk to us, but it's 4 or 5 days away, call us at the store. Get on our website, greatlakesbeesupply.com. We do have a bunch of articles on there. We do have commonly asked questions, things that we try to answer as best we can on there. If you think there's a resource on there for swarms, and you guys are probably all familiar, should be, with what the difference between a beehive swarm and a hornet nest is when somebody calls. But we get calls all the time from people, obviously, that are not beekeepers, and they'll say, I have a swarm coming and going from a hole in my garage, and before we send somebody out, we try to find out exactly what the kinds of bees they are, because most of the time they're not honeybees. And we ask them, well, how many bees are we talking about? And she goes, oh boy, there's a lot of them. There's probably like 45 bees. And that's you guys all know that's not a swarm. That's just a hornet's nest or a yellow jacket nest or something like that, coming and going from a hole in a wall, or that's made a nest under a soffit or something like that. So we try to bird dog those when we hear about them, but we do have a resource we send people to that's on the website that kind of helps people understand what the difference is between honeybees and the rest of the bees, or the rest of the wasp and hornets and all those, and how to tell the difference between a nest and a swarm, things like that. So a lot of other stuff on there too. We over the years have accumulated a decent amount of information up there. So
please don't call us and ask Riff or I, how do you get that great big gray
football that's hanging in a tree
into your box.
we have had that. We have legitimately had a person call us and wanted to know how they have bees in their front yard up in the tree, and they wanted to be able to figure out, how do I get the bees out of this gray paper football that's hanging up in a tree into their hive. And there's no real good answer for that. I mean, you can take that gray football down, you better have your bee suit on, and you can stuff it in a hive. But what's it going to do you any good? Because those are paper wasps. Those are not honeybees. But you guys all know honeybees a whole lot more than you think you do, compared to a lot of people who call us that are not beekeepers. They're calling us about swarms, or they're calling us about trying to get bees out of their house or something like that. And you would be amazed at some of the stories that we get. It's pretty funny. Angie, thanks for being so helpful. Will you be doing online classes? Yes, we will. So on our website, greatlakesbeesupply.com, at the very top, there's a link to the School of Beekeeping. That's where all of our videos are going. COVID has kept our schedule really kind of wonky, and we've been having a hard time getting a whole bunch of our classes going and up. But our beginner classes are on there. We will soon have our diseases and pests up there. I know I keep saying that. And then we will get into our winterization classes here soon. But all those classes are at schoolofbeekeeping.org. And that's where we're starting to load all of our stuff up. And if I can get 2 hours extra in the day, we are going to have guest speakers from universities, different parts around the area, around the country, that will do guest instruction classes on there too, for a variety of different topics, such as plants for pollinators, trees for pollinators, different things like that. So yeah, do keep an eye on that. So we have another question. So when I move my frames in to get my bees to draw them out, should I spray them with sugar water or just leave it as is? If you're talking about those outside 2 frames and you're just going to move them in amongst the ones that are already drawn out, I don't suspect that you're going to need any sugar water spray on them. They're not using them. If they're the same foundation as the rest of them they're using, the only reason they're not using them is because they're on the outside. Sometimes you'll get foundation when you buy them from, I think you said Farm and Home or something like that. Sometimes the foundations they carry are not pre-waxed. They're just plastic and stamped, but there's no wax on them. So occasionally you will get foundation that they won't use because they're not waxed. And so they kind of just turn up their nose to those. But if it's the same foundation you have and they've worked on the rest of it, then there's should be nothing wrong with the outer 2, other than they just don't like the outside ones. So I would just move them in. If for some reason they still don't use them, then sure, squirt them down with sugar. but I almost guarantee you once you scoot them farther into the center, they will start using them immediately.
We're not going to get into it right now because we will have a winterizing class, but some of you are probably wondering what this is that I have in my hands. This is our winter feeder. This winter feeder has sugar bricks in it, and it also has wood chips on two sides. And we use this to control the moisture that would drip onto your colony from the underside of your lid. So remember, if you have a inner screen cover and you notice that it's getting propolis on it, you know, it's kind of getting gobbed up with propolis, keep in mind propolis is a good thing to have in your hive. If you've got it on an inner screen cover, that propolis is a very good thing to keep on. It is non-mildewy.
Propolis on an inner screen cover, right? You all hope to have that in your hive to varying degrees, and this is good stuff to have in the hive over winter, especially.
So yeah, but we'll be going over this when we do a winterizing class and show you how to, you know, if you're worrying about how do I winterize my hive and all that, we will have a class to show you the method that we use. And there's been a lot of our students that have been here that have used this and they've had good success with it. But this allows the bees to have winter food through sugar bricks, and it also restricts the airflow up through the hive, similar to putting the old winter inner cover on that just has a little hole in the top of it. This does the same thing as that, except this will protect your cover from dripping as condensation drips off the inside of your box and drips down in because it falls onto these wood chips or it falls onto the sugar bricks and does not go down and drip onto your colony. Well, we will go over this later. We have these in stock right now, and we've got quite a few. We've probably got 24, 30 of them here. So we will have these in stock, but this is something that you will want to do when you go into starting to close up for winter. But we'll go over that more in depth a little bit later.
And that will be the class, not in this live Q&A. That will be in the online class since we can't do classroom classes anymore. We will record the winterization online class and post that, so you'll be able to go through that. It's usually a 2-hour class to go through that process. So we'll make sure we post that. But that all of our classes you can get to via our website at greatlakesbeesupply.com. Does anybody else have any other questions? Good questions, good talking. I appreciate everybody participating. The last the last time we were on was a little quiet. We like to talk about bees, and that's what we do all day, every day anyway. So we like to be able to have the conversations with everybody and try to talk about things. Can you use a candy block with that? Yes, that box bear. That's what that center compartment is for. You can put candy board. You can put you can make the little cake kinds of things. You can put the fondant stuff in there. I think you can fit a sugar water, the small jar sugar water feeder in the center. You can put anything they'll eat in the center. You can even put your pollen in there in the spring if you want for a little while. So that center compartment, the screen in the center is big enough to let the bees pass through. And we've used them on our hives, and every time we lift the lid up in the middle of winter, that bee cluster, that bee ball is right in that center compartment, insulated by the outside 2 compartments filled with moisture wicking materials. They work really well. We did not design these boxes. We talked to a gentleman who had been, still was, when he was in our store from up in the UP. He had been doing it for 40 or 50 years. He made these boxes up and was kind enough to share everything about them with us. And he swore by them. He had an awful lot of hives, and he'd been doing it an awful long time. So we asked him if we could make them, and he had no problem with it. So we make them now in order to try to help beekeepers get their bees through the winter a little bit better. So it's never 100%, but it certainly has helped at least our survival rates for our hives. So. Let's see. Any other questions? Please list these classes on your YouTube channel. Also, online store, you may have one. Okay, Cheryl. I'll make a post on the comments below for this video. So a lot of people, actually more people, watch these live videos after they're not live anymore. When they actually get posted to our YouTube and to our Facebook, they'll be watching them later. So, but yeah, I'll put in the comments down below the link to our GreatLakesBeeSupply.com. And our online store is at that website, as well as the online classes. But I'll post that down below. Similar to a Vivaldi board. Yep, Cheryl, they're pretty close. So some variations to them, but you know, beekeeping, all beekeeping really is tweaking things here and there to try to make them better based on where you live or your situation. You know, there's no single right way to beekeep. Lots of different variations. Which is kind of nice. I appreciate you bringing that up, because I will tell you that we've been beekeeping since 2000. Not a real long time, but a decent amount of time. We teach a lot of classes. We're Michigan's largest beekeeping educator. We have 500 or 600 people go through our classes in the spring. I'm a master beekeeper through University of Montana. So we do know bees, but by no means are we saying what we're saying is the only way or necessarily 100% the right way. I don't put down anybody else who would contradict. This stuff works well for us in Southwest Michigan, for our bees, and for a lot of our customers. We have the advantage of having the bee supply store, so that when things like these feeder boxes, somebody says they swear by them, we sell them to some people, and we get the feedback from an awful lot of people. So we not only can we use those ourselves and test them out and tell if they work, but we have a lot of other beekeepers who use them all over Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, that let us know that they work too. So we can kind of test a lot of that stuff out. And we do get companies that send us things from time to time, new products that we try on our hives. And we let some of our customers use too, to try to see how they work. So, but by no means is what we say the only way to beekeep. There's lots of variations, and that's great. We encourage everybody to do your own thing, do what seems logical, and maybe improve on some things that other people do that make sense, but you think you could make it better. So that's what beekeeping is. Bear, thank you for the advice. I just found your YouTube channel. 2 weeks, spent all morning watching them. Awesome. You know, we made a lot of videos for a while, several years ago. Then there was a big stint in the middle where we just got stinking busy with all the rest of the stuff that we have going on, because bee supplies is not the only thing we do for our businesses and for our jobs. So we got busy for a while, and now because of COVID, we have the time and the need to try to do more stuff online. So we're trying to do more live, and we're trying to do more videos, which is what kind of prompted all the effort that we will soon be done with for the beekeeping, schoolofbeekeeping.org, which is where all those classes and stuff will start to accumulate. So do you sell 10 frame nukes or only 5 frame? Yeah, we only sell 5 frame nukes, Bear. In the spring, we sell nukes in packages. Of course, most everybody knows you make your orders after the first of the year while it's still miserable outside, and then the bees come in April or May. But we only do 5 frame nukes. However, I will say we do have a small amount of hives that survive the winter that we will sell off of the farm. So those are 10 frame hives, or sometimes even 2 deeps, 20 frame hives. So you can cheat, and you can buy hives that are already 10 or 20 frames big. You're going to buy the hive too, of course. You don't transfer them from these to your hive. You're buying the hive with all the bees in it, established and healthy and big. You just come out to the farm, you back your truck up. We attach the hive all together in one piece, and we use the tractors to set it down in the back of your vehicle, and you can haul it home and set it wherever you want to set it, and rip the tape off and cheat, and you're a beekeeper without having to do all the rest of the work everybody else did in the spring. So we always sell out on those, and they always sell fast, but they are on our website, our online store, when they're available, and you can order them online if you want a pre-done hive. So. All right, if nobody else has any other questions, we're gonna probably wrap it up. So feel free to comment on the videos still. If you're watching this after they're not live, when the little red dot's not up top, they're not live anymore. So you're watching it recorded, which is still fine. We're very active on YouTube and on Facebook. Sadly, I'm on Facebook every day for work, not because I like it, but we will answer questions if you post them on either one of these videos as well. So go ahead and ask questions if you want about anything we talked about or anything you have questions about. Again, feel free to call us or go to our website at greatlakesbeesupply.com. So I appreciate all the participation again and all the great questions. And everybody have a good night. And yeah, stay safe, stay healthy. Hi, Shannon. Nice to see you. And we'll see you next Saturday if we don't talk to you before. Okay? Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good weekend.